During our movie night at home, my boyfriend fell asleep on the couch with his phone unlocked. Messages kept coming in from work project. Miss your touch already. And last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. We'd been together for 3 years and just put a deposit down on a house. My heart racing, I put his phone back and gently covered him with a blanket like nothing happened. Yesterday, my phone had 51 increasingly desperate texts. Me and Harrison have been together for 3 whole years. Like, we just put a deposit down on a cute little craftsman house in the suburbs last week. We had names picked out for our future kids. We had a joint Costco membership, y'all. That's practically marriage in millennial terms, LMAO. So basically, Friday nights are always our movie nights. It's been our tradition since like month 2 of dating. We take turns picking the movie, make some fancy popcorn, I'm talking nutritional yeast and everything, and just chill together after a long work week. It's honestly been my favorite part of every week for years now. This past Friday was Harrison's turn to pick, and he chose some boring documentary about cryptocurrency. Edit. Not trying to offend any crypto bros out there. Just not my thing. About 45 minutes in, I noticed he was completely knocked out on the couch. Not surprising since he claimed he'd been working late all week on some big project at work. I was about to wake him up and suggest we just go to bed when his phone lit up on the coffee table, and then it lit up again. And again. Y'all, his phone was unlocked. The messages were right there on the screen from someone saved as work project with an emoji. At first I thought nothing of it, but then I read, miss your touch already. And then, last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. My heart literally stopped. I couldn't breathe. I felt like someone had punched me directly in the stomach and then threw me off a cliff. 3 years. 3 years. All the plans, all the promises, all the I love yous and you're the one speeches. Were they all lies? I'll admit, I did something I never thought I would do. I picked up his phone and quickly scrolled through the conversation. I know, invasion of privacy and all that, but something in my gut told me I needed to see the truth. And wow, the truth was ugly. This wasn't just some flirty texts. There were plans for hotel meetups, explicit messages, and even photos that I immediately wished I could unsee. Based on the timestamps, this had been going on for at least 2 months. There were messages about me, about how he was handling the Gloria situation, and how he was trying to figure things out, but didn't want to hurt me. As if cheating on me for months wasn't already hurting me. The audacity of this man? I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw his phone through the window. I wanted to wake him up and demand answers. But something inside me, something cold and calculating that I didn't even know existed, told me to wait. So I gently placed his phone back exactly where it was. I pulled the throw blanket over him like a loving girlfriend would, and I went to the bathroom where I had the quietest panic attack of my life. Edit. Just to clarify, I didn't confront him that night. I needed time to process and plan. I spent the rest of the night pretending to sleep while my mind raced with questions. Who was this person? How long had this really been going on? Was this why he'd been working late so often? What about our house? The deposit was most of my savings. The next morning was surreal. Harrison woke up, kissed my forehead, and acted like everything was normal. He even made me breakfast and talked about paint colors for the new house. I've never been an actress, but that day I deserved an Oscar because somehow I smiled and nodded and pretended that my entire world wasn't falling apart. As soon as he left for his Saturday morning gym session, which I now realized was probably meeting up with work project, I called my best friend Sally. She came over immediately, and we spent the next 3 hours going through every detail I could remember from those messages. Sally suggested we do some digging. Harrison and I share a credit card for household expenses, so we logged into the account online. And there it was. Evidence of dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, Uber rides at odd hours, and even a hotel charge from last weekend when he told me he was on a business trip. I felt physically sick. The more we looked, the more we found. It was like every suspicion I'd ever pushed down over the last few months was being confirmed. The late nights, the sudden work emergencies, the new Dior cologne he started wearing, the password changes on his laptop. It all made sense now. But here's where I need advice, Reddit. I don't want to just confront him and have him gaslight me or minimize what he's done. I don't want to just walk away and let him spin some narrative about how things weren't working out. I want him to truly understand what he's thrown away. I want him to feel the same earth-shattering pain that I'm feeling right now. Sally thinks I should gather more evidence before confronting him. She suggested I pretend everything is normal for a bit longer while I figure out a plan. So basically, I spent all day yesterday being the perfect girlfriend, made his favorite dinner, didn't question when he was texting and smiling at his phone, though now I knew who it was, and even initiated intimacy, which made me feel physically ill afterward, but I had to keep up appearances. This morning, I casually mentioned I might have a work trip next weekend, and he immediately perked up. He was trying to hide it, but I could see the wheels turning in his head about having the apartment to himself. It confirmed everything. I'm going to pretend to go on this trip, but actually I'll be staying at Sally's apartment across town. I have a feeling he's going to invite work project over to our home, and when he does, well, that's when I'll make my move. I'm not typically a vengeful person, y'all, but something inside me has snapped. 3 years of my life, my savings, my trust. I can't just walk away with nothing while he gets to have his cake and eat it too. Edit. To answer some common questions. Yes, I've taken screenshots of everything, including the credit card statements. And no, I won't do anything illegal, lol. I just want him to feel the consequences of his actions. Edit 2. For those asking about the house deposit, we haven't closed yet. The money is in escrow and I've already contacted a lawyer about options. Don't worry, I'm protecting myself financially. Edit 3. Several of you in the comments are saying I'm being manipulative by not confronting him directly. Maybe you're right, but after 3 years of building a life with someone who's been living a double life, can you blame me for wanting some closure on my terms? First update. Okay, so first of all, wow. I did not expect my last post to blow up like that. Thank you to everyone who commented with advice and support. Reading your messages has honestly been keeping me sane through this nightmare. Y'all are the real MVPs. It's been exactly 1 week since I discovered Harrison's betrayal, and I have so much to update you on. So basically, I've been living a double life this past week. On the outside, I'm still Harrison's loving girlfriend who's excited about our new house and future together. But on the inside, I'm basically a private investigator collecting evidence and planning my exit strategy. As many of you suggested, I met with a financial advisor on Monday, told Harrison I was having lunch with a coworker. The advisor confirmed what many of you said in the comments. I needed to protect myself ASAP. Since the house deposit came mostly from my savings, she helped me draft a letter to the escrow company. I haven't sent it yet, but it's ready to go when I make my move. I also opened a new bank account at a completely different bank and started moving small amounts of money from our joint savings. Not enough that he'd notice, but enough that I'll have emergency funds when everything goes down. Edit. To the people calling this stealing, it's my money that I earned and deposited. I'm just protecting what's mine. But here's where things get interesting. Remember how I mentioned Harrison works at a marketing firm? Well, on Tuesday they had their monthly team happy hour, which partners are always invited to. I usually skip these because they're boring F, but this time I made sure to attend. Y'all, I met Work Project in person. Her name is Dina, and she's the new creative director who started about 3 months ago. Harrison introduced us so casually, like my world wasn't literally imploding as I shook her hand. She's exactly what you'd expect. Gorgeous, confident, stylish, everything I've been feeling insecure about lately. The way they interacted was so obvious once I knew what to look for. The inside jokes, the lingering eye contact, the way he kept finding excuses to be near her. At one point, I went to the bathroom and circled back through a different entrance to the bar, only to find them in a corner speaking intensely with their heads close together. They jumped apart when someone else approached. I wanted to scream or throw my drink in both their faces, but instead I smiled and played dumb. I even complimented her earrings, which looked expensive AF BTW, and asked about her background. Turns out she moved here from Chicago for the job opportunity. Yeah, right. More like for my boyfriend. When we were leaving, I overheard her tell him, "Your girlfriend seems so sweet," with this fake sympathetic voice. I literally had to dig my nails into my palms to keep from losing it right there. That night, Harrison was extra affectionate, probably out of guilt. He even suggested we look at furniture for the new house online. The audacity. I sat there picking out couches with him while imagining setting fire to everything he loves. I'm not actually going to do that, don't worry, Reddit mods. LL. So Wednesday rolled around, and I decided to take some of your suggestions about tracking his movements. I downloaded our phone carrier's app, which shows the location history for phones on our family plan, Goldmine. Every Tuesday and Thursday when he claimed to be working late, his phone was at an address across town. A quick Google search showed it's an apartment complex. Guess whose name came up when I cross-referenced the address with some social media searches? Yup, Dina's. He's been going to her apartment twice a week like clockwork. Thursday was the hardest day to maintain my act. I knew exactly where he was going after work, exactly what he was doing, and with whom. He texted that he had to finish some graphics for a presentation and would be late. I responded with a sweet, "No problem, babe, I'll save you some dinner. Love you," while literally shaking with rage. While he was gone, I did a deep dive into our finances. We've been together 3 years, but only merged some of our accounts about a year ago when we started seriously saving for a house. I found charges for nice restaurants, wine shops, and even a jewelry store from last month. Jewelry. I've received exactly 0 pieces of jewelry from Harrison in the last 6 months. Edit. Several people asked if the jewelry could have been for me as a surprise. Nope. The date of purchase was the day before Valentine's Day, and he gave me a card for Valentine's Day. Just a card. Now I know where his real gift went. Friday was movie night again. The irony wasn't lost on me that exactly 1 week before, my life had been turned upside down during this same tradition. Harrison picked another documentary about some tech billionaire, equally boring. This time, I watched him instead of the movie. The way he kept checking his phone, the way he angled it away from me when texting. All these behaviors I'd previously ignored now screamed red flags. After he fell asleep, he didn't even make it through the movie, typical. I checked his phone again. The conversation with Work Project had been deleted, but there was a new chat with D-Work that was obviously Dina. They were making plans for next weekend, when I'm supposedly at my work trip. Which brings me to my current plan. I've told Harrison I'll be leaving Thursday night for a healthcare conference in Denver. I work in office management, so this is plausible. In reality, I'll be at Sally's apartment across town, watching everything unfold via the doorbell camera I secretly installed yesterday while Harrison was at the gym. Based on their texts, Dina will be coming over Friday night to our apartment, probably sleeping in our bed. The thought makes me physically ill, but it will be the final proof I need. While they're playing house in my absence, I'll be executing the next phase of my plan. 1. Sending the letter to the escrow company about the house deposit. 2. Transferring the remaining money from our joint accounts. 3. Packing up my essential belongings. I've already been slowly moving sentimental items to Sally's. 4. Printing copies of all the evidence I've gathered. 5. And finally, preparing for the confrontation of a lifetime. Several of you suggested some wild revenge scenarios in the comments, and I appreciate the creativity, but I've decided I want something more impactful. I don't just want a momentary gotcha moment. I want Harrison to understand exactly what he's losing. Not just me, but our future, his reputation, and his dignity. The hardest part has been pretending everything is normal this week. We've still been sleeping in the same bed, eating meals together, making plans for the future. Yesterday, he wanted to talk about potentially getting a dog for the new house, and I had to sit there nodding and discussing breeds while knowing there will be no house, no dog, and no future. Sometimes I look at him and still see the man I fell in love with, the man who held my hand through my dad's health scare last year, the man who surprised me with concert tickets for bands I love, the man I thought I'd grow old with. And then I remember the texts, the lies, the betrayal, and I feel nothing but cold determination. Am I doing the right thing, Reddit? He's taken so much from me already. My trust, my plans for the future, my sense of security. I want to take back some power in how this ends. Edit. To address some common questions. Yes, I've been tested for STIs, all clear so far. And yes, I've documented everything for potential legal issues with the house. Edit 2. Several people asked if I've considered that this could all be explained away somehow. Trust me, there is no innocent explanation for the texts I saw and the evidence I've gathered. This isn't a misunderstanding. Second update. Y'all, my hands are literally shaking as I type this update. The past 72 hours have been the most emotionally draining of my life, but what went down was so much more satisfying than I could have imagined. I'm still in shock that I actually went through with it. So basically, let me pick up where I left off. Last Thursday, I kissed Harrison goodbye with my overnight bag packed for my conference in Denver. He actually helped carry my bag to the car, told me he'd miss me, and that he'd just be catching up on work while I was gone. The lies this man tells with a straight face, unbelievable. I drove around the block, waited 20 minutes, then headed straight to Sally's apartment. We'd set up a command center of sorts, snacks for stress eating, and enough wine to get through what we knew would be a difficult night. While we waited, I finalized everything. Sent a notarized letter to the escrow company withdrawing from the house purchase. Transferred my portion of our joint savings to my new account. Contacted my doctor to have my medical records transferred to a new practice. Changed all my passwords and recovery emails. Removed myself as an authorized user on our credit cards. Around 7:30, the doorbell camera alerted us to movement. And there she was, Dinah, looking gorgeous in a dress I could never afford, carrying an overnight bag and a bottle of wine. Harrison greeted her with a kiss that made my stomach turn. They didn't even wait until they were inside to start pawing at each other. In the doorway of the home we shared, that's when something inside me just shifted. Sally saw it happen. She said my whole face changed. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. Okay, so here's where I did something I never thought I would do. I opened the doorbell camera app on my phone and hit record. I captured everything. The kiss, them going inside, even their conversation through the door about how nice it was to finally have the place to themselves. The audio was crystal clear, y'all. Like, you could literally hear Harrison telling Dina how excited he was for a Harrison and Dina weekend without having to worry about Gloria. I saved that recording, and then I downloaded the Ring app on my laptop so I could continue recording throughout the evening. Every time they came into view, like when they went out on the balcony with wine glasses, or when Harrison ordered food delivery, I captured it all. That night, I did something even bolder. I set up my old phone on our apartment balcony. We're on the second floor, and the balcony wraps around to the bedroom window. I climbed up the fire escape with Sally's brother keeping watch, and I positioned the phone where it could see into our bedroom through the gap in the curtains Harrison never closes properly. The next morning, I went to our apartment while I knew Harrison would be at work. I had exactly 3 hours to get everything important out before he might come home for lunch. Sally brought 2 of her brothers to help, and we worked like a well-oiled machine. I only took what was undeniably mine: clothes, personal items, family heirlooms, and a few pieces of furniture I'd brought into the relationship. I left all the joint purchases and anything that could be disputed. I wasn't interested in stuff. I just wanted out. Before I left, I did one final sweep to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything important. In the bathroom, I found her hairbrush and makeup on my vanity. In the kitchen, there were 2 wine glasses in the sink. And in the bedroom, well, let's just say the evidence of their night together was obvious. I left my key on the counter along with some printed evidence of their affair. A few text screenshots, some credit card statements, just enough to let him know I wasn't clueless. But I kept the recordings for myself, for now. Then I blocked Harrison on everything, Phone, email, social media, even Venmo. I contacted our friends and family to let them know we had broken up and that I wouldn't be discussing details, but that I needed space from anything related to Harrison. I expected to feel victorious after executing my plan so perfectly. Instead, I just felt empty. 3 years of my life, gone. All our plans, our inside jokes, our routines, erased in a single morning. I cried the entire way back to Sally's apartment. But then, his messages started coming through on my work email, the one communication method I'd forgotten to block. First email, 12:34 p.m. Gloria, where are you? Just came home for lunch and saw your stuff gone. What's happening? Call me ASAP. Second email, 12:46 p.m. I see the papers you left. This isn't what you think. Please call me so I can explain. Third email, 1:03 p.m. I know I've made mistakes, but we can work through this. Don't throw away 3 years over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Is that what we're calling sleeping with your coworker for months while planning a future with someone else? The emails kept coming all afternoon, each one more desperate than the last. By evening, he was alternating between apologizing profusely and being angry that I invaded his privacy and acted so drastically without talking to him first. When the emails didn't work, he started showing up at places he thought I might be. My favorite coffee shop, my parents' house, Sally's apartment. Thankfully, she didn't tell him I was staying there. He even went to my workplace, causing such a scene that my boss almost called security. The audacity of this man to act like I'm the one who did something wrong? That's when the rage I'd been suppressing finally boiled over. So I did it. I really did it. I created a private link to all the recordings, the doorbell footage, the balcony conversation, everything, and sent it to Harrison's parents. Edit. To those saying this was too harsh, maybe. But this man was planning to buy a house with me while carrying on an affair. His parents had helped with our house deposit. They deserve to know who their son really is. I didn't include any angry message or explanation. I simply wrote, I thought you should know why Harrison and I won't be buying the house together after all. I'm sorry to send this, but you deserve the truth. 10 minutes later, Harrison's phone apparently blew up with calls from his parents. How do I know? Because he sent me 20 text messages from his friend's phone about how I had ruined his life, and how could you send that to my parents? But I wasn't done. I also sent the link to his boss, not out of pure revenge, but because their company has a strict policy against inter-office relationships, especially between people at different levels. They had been conducting their affair on company time, using company resources. Edit. For those saying I went too far with the boss, Harrison had recently received a promotion that should have gone to his coworker Larry, who's been struggling to support his family. Harrison got it partly because Dina advocated for him in meetings. That night, Friday, Harrison apparently went on a bender with his friends. I know this because by 2 a.m. I'd received 51 text messages from unknown numbers, him borrowing friends' phones to get around my block. They ranged from, I love you more than anything, to, you've destroyed everything I've worked for, to, how could you do this to me? My personal favorite, you can't just disappear after 3 years together and expose my personal life to everyone. What am I supposed to tell people? Maybe tell them the truth, that you're a cheating liar who got caught? Saturday morning, Dina herself reached out via Instagram, now also blocked. Her message wasn't apologetic this time. Apparently she'd been called into an emergency meeting with HR and was facing possible termination. She blamed me for overreacting and not handling this like an adult. By Saturday afternoon, word had spread through our friend group. The reactions have been mixed. Some immediately took my side, disgusted by Harrison's behavior. Others think I went nuclear by involving his workplace and family. A few have tried to remain neutral, saying I should have just walked away quietly. But here's the thing about consequences. Sometimes they need to be public. Harrison wasn't just betraying me in private. He was lying to his parents about the house, manipulating workplace dynamics for his benefit, and planning to continue his double life indefinitely. Why should I be the only one bearing the pain of his choices? Saturday evening, Harrison's mother called me. How did I forget to block her number? To my shock, she wasn't angry at me at all. She was devastated about what her son had done and thanked me for showing her the truth, painful as it was. She apologized for raising such a dishonest man and said their family would be having some serious conversations with Harrison. After that call, I turned off my phone completely for 24 hours. I needed a break from the drama, from the emotions, from the constant reminders of what I'd lost. When I turned it back on this morning, there were more messages, more missed calls, more people wanting a piece of me and my story. So where am I now? Still at Sally's, still processing, still alternating between confidence in my decision and moments of wondering if I went too far. The apartment manager has confirmed Harrison is clearing out his stuff today, so I can return there soon if I want to, but I'm not sure I do want to. That apartment is filled with memories I'm not ready to face alone. I'm thinking of finding a new place entirely, a fresh start. I've also decided to take a week off work to clear my head. My boss was incredibly understanding once I explained the situation, minus the gory details. As for the house, the escrow company confirmed they've received my withdrawal notice. I'll lose some earnest money, but that's a small price to pay for not being legally tied to Harrison for the biggest purchase of my life. Harrison is still trying to reach me through mutual friends, but now his tone has completely changed. He's not saying he deserves a chance to explain anymore. He's begging me to please stop sharing the recordings with more people and swearing he's learned his lesson. Too little, too late, Harrison. Edit. To everyone asking if I'll ever let him explain, maybe someday when it hurts less. But right now, I can't imagine any explanation that would make what he did okay. Edit 2. For those saying I was too harsh with the videos, maybe. But after being lied to for months while planning a future together, I needed him to face real consequences, not just a sad breakup he could spin however he wanted. Edit 3. Several people have asked for the recordings. Absolutely not. I didn't create them for entertainment or to completely destroy Harrison's life. I shared them selectively with people who needed to know the truth. I'm not looking to humiliate him publicly beyond that. Tomorrow, I meet with a therapist, thanks to those who suggested this in the comments. Last update. So basically, the last time I updated, I had just executed what many of you called nuclear revenge on Harrison, recording him and Dina via the doorbell camera, catching their intimate moments, sending the evidence to his parents and his boss, and basically exposing his double life to everyone who mattered. I'd moved out, blocked him everywhere, and was hiding out at Sally's apartment processing the aftermath of my own actions. A lot of you wanted to know if I ever confronted him face-to-face after all that, and the answer is yes, but not how or when I expected to. About a week after I sent those recordings, I was having coffee at this little cafe across town, specifically chosen because Harrison would never go there. Too hipster for him, LOL. I was journaling, something my therapist suggested, when I heard someone say my name. I looked up, and there he was, Harrison, looking like absolute hell. Unshaven, dark circles, wrinkled clothes. He'd clearly lost weight, and his eyes had this haunted look I'd never seen before. For a split second, I felt this surge of satisfaction seeing him so wrecked. Then it was replaced by pure anxiety, because I was not ready for this confrontation. He asked if he could sit down. My first instinct was to say no and leave, but something in me needed closure, so I nodded. What followed was the most honest conversation we'd had in months, maybe ever. I just listened as he tried to explain himself. The affair with Dina had started as flirting at work, then drinks after late meetings, and eventually, well, you know. He claimed he never meant for it to happen, classic, that he had been stressed about the house purchase, oh please, that he still loved me but had gotten caught up in the excitement, gag me. But then he addressed what I'd done, sending the recordings to his parents and boss. To my surprise, he didn't seem angry about it anymore. He said after the initial shock and humiliation, he realized it was exactly what he deserved. His parents had apparently given him the disappointment talk of a lifetime. They'd made him pay back their portion of the house deposit and told him he needed to grow up and face consequences. At work, he'd been put on probation and removed from Dinah's department. Larry, the coworker who should have gotten Harrison's promotion, was now being considered for advancement instead. When he finished talking, I asked just one question. If I hadn't found out, and if I hadn't exposed everything, how long would you have continued lying to my face every day? He couldn't answer, and that told me everything. I told him calmly that while I appreciated his honesty now, it was too late. That he hadn't just cheated, he had stolen my time, my trust, and my sense of reality. That while he was figuring things out, I was planning our future, believing in promises that were already broken. When I told him I forgave him, not for his sake, but for mine, because carrying anger would only hurt me in the long run. His face when I said that. It was like he'd been preparing for more rage and had no defense against compassion. I left him sitting there at the cafe, and it felt like closing the final chapter of a book I never wanted to read again. Edit. So many of you have asked if this means we got back together. Absolutely not. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. The weeks that followed were a blur of practical matters. Found a cute studio apartment that's just mine, and decorated it exactly how I want. Sorted out the financial mess from the canceled house purchase. Lost some money, but protected most of my investment. Started therapy twice a week. Best decision ever, y'all. Leaned heavily on friends who showed up in ways I never expected. As for Dina, she actually reached out again about 2 months after everything went down. Turns out, after the HR investigation and all the drama at work, she decided to transfer back to the Chicago office. She told me Harrison had been lying to her too, telling her our relationship was basically over, that we were only staying together until the house purchase was complete for financial reasons. She apologized again for her part in everything and wished me well. We're not friends, obviously, but at least there's no lingering animosity. So what about Harrison? Last I heard, from mutual friends, I don't ask, but people tell me anyway, he's transferred to his company's Seattle office for a fresh start. Apparently, even after the probation period ended, the workplace had become too uncomfortable with everyone knowing about his affair with Dina and the recordings I'd sent. His boss apparently gave him the option to transfer or look for a new job, and he chose transfer. Harrison's parents still call me occasionally, believe it or not. They were so shocked by the recordings I sent, but after processing everything, They've maintained a relationship with me separate from their son. His mom even sent me a care package on my birthday with homemade cookies and a heartfelt card saying she still thinks of me as family. The house we almost bought? It sold to another couple last month. I drove by it recently, saw their moving truck in the driveway, and felt nothing but relief that it wasn't me tied to that mortgage. And to Harrison, last week I was unpacking the last box in my new apartment. Yes, it took me 6 months to fully unpack, don't judge LOL, and found an old birthday card from Harrison. It read, "To many more years of adventure together." A few months ago, finding this would have sent me into a spiral. This time I just smiled sadly and threw it away. Edit. For those asking if I still have the recordings, yes, but they're locked away where no one else will ever see them. They served their purpose, and I don't need to keep revisiting that pain. Edit 2. To clarify, since so many are asking, yes, I'm legally and financially completely separated from Harrison now. No shared accounts, no shared debts, clean break. Edit 3. To the person who DM'd me saying I'm damaged goods now and no man will want me. Who hurt you? Actually, don't answer that, just do better. Edit 4. For those asking if I regret sending the recordings to his boss, maybe a little. But Harrison using his relationship with Dina to advance professionally, while Larry, who has 3 kids and a sick wife, got passed over, that needed to be exposed too.